Fruitcakes are always popular. There's a lovely dark fruitcake on our website, but let's do a nice light one today. Now, these fruit, we're using to a large extent crystallized fruits and glacé cherries, and they can be very, very sweet. So what we're doing is the crystallized pineapple, crystallized cherries or glacé cherries, the crystallized figs. Not always easy to get the green figs preserved, and it's often cheaper to buy the crystallized figs. Then we've got some sultanas. You can see all these nice pale blonde colors, and then some apricots. Now, it's always a good idea when you're using glacé fruit, or even if you're using regular dried fruit, to pour boiling water over that fruit, because it washes off the excess sugar, and they often preserve the fruit with sulfur dioxide, and it removes the sulfur dioxide. Now you can see I'm working in a colander so that we can instantly drain away the extra juice, and all this pinky sugary water can be thrown out. Thanks, Janet. Now that we've drained the fruit nicely, we can see this bowl is nice and warm, which will speed up the reabsorption of all the other lovely stuff that we're going to add to this fruit. See these lovely jewel colors that we have? Now to that, we're going to add some marmalade, which gives a lovely depth of flavor, and some grated lemon rind, some lemon juice. You can see all those citrus flavors will just work together beautifully. And then we're adding some sherry and some rooibos tea. Also gives a really good flavor to a light cake. Now, if you don't want to use the sherry, then you can always use a bit more rooibos tea. Now, we leave this mixture to sit while we prepare the pan. Ideally, you should leave this for about half an hour, but because we've warmed the fruit and we've warmed the bowl, 20 minutes or 15 minutes will be fine. Now, don't think I'm going to wash the windows. When you bake a fruit cake, it is really, really important that you insulate the fruit against the intense heat of the oven. And a very, very good common sense way to do that is to use layers of newspaper. And it's even better when you spray the newspaper with a bit of water, so that that dampness will slowly sort of keep the temperature of the pan and everything just right. Then you can put your pan that you're going to use on top of the damp newspaper, and as extra insurance, it's a good idea to butter the pan. And then we've got some baking paper. Now, Janet has just cut a little window in this baking paper so that we can go around the middle funnel of the pan and just glue this down. This helps to keep the baking paper in place, and for extra insurance and extra flavor, I'll put a little bit more butter on there. Now, in order to keep the sides of the cake nice and protected, we are going to, this is 4 layers of newspaper, which we'll wrap around towards the end, and we'll do exactly the same thing. Wet the newspaper, wrap it around the tin, just use some paper clips. Okay, we're going to use our vanilla cake for this. It's a nice easy base, and very important that the butter must be soft, and it must be soft enough that when you push your finger in it, it leaves an indentation in the butter. Now Janet's going to start the butter for us. She's going to whip it with the electric hand beater, or if you have a big beater, that's fine, until it's nice and fluffy. Now the vanilla cake mixture, we just want to flavor it with a little bit of cinnamon. So let's throw the cinnamon in there and just roughly mix it through. Doesn't have to be mixed through properly. It's just a rough mixture of cinnamon. Now what we're going to do is to add, there's 4 eggs in total, so we add the eggs one at a time, and at the same time you add a tablespoon of the flour and then you beat it in. Now we've added 2 eggs, and then Janet's just going to scrape down the sides of the bowl properly to make sure we incorporate you know, all the mixture. Then we proceed, egg and a spoonful of flour. We've added all the eggs, and now we just make sure that we've got everything down the sides. Now we're going to add half the cake mix, roughly. Stir that in. Now we can add all the fruit and the juice that we've got. Stir that in. Once you've mixed that in, all the flour goes in, and we add half of the measured nuts, toasted flaked almonds. Just fold it in. You can see Janet is slightly turning the bowl. The bowl is standing on a cloth, and we fold it through gently. Right, now I'm just going to lift this collar off. Turn the bowl slightly while you're working. Now once you've got this in there, just flatten it, and it's really very important that you bump your tin. That dropping the tin on the work surface helps to remove the excess air bubbles out of the mixture. Now the remaining half of the almonds get sprinkled over the top as evenly as you can, and you can flatten them with the back of a tablespoon, or just a little easier is to use a potato masher. Just push them in properly. Let's just put this on again. Now you can see with all this extra insurance we have, there's no question that cake won't burn in the oven, it won't over brown, and you'll have a little damp ecosystem forming inside this paper collar, which will help the cake to bake beautifully. Now you can see here's our cake, beautifully baked, not over browned, everything that it should be. The almonds are sticking beautifully. You know, this reminds me of a story I heard about dysfunctional marriages. They say some husbands don't even know what their wife's favorite flower is. So this husband leans over to his wife and says, "It's self-raising, isn't it, darling?" Now let's cut a slice of this cake. And you can see it's a fairly dense cake. And there we have all the lovely colors of the fruit. Enjoy.